Hello guys, Blagaga here, and as we all know, the banlist is out and it will go into effect tomorrow on February the 5th. And I have to say, this is one of the best banlists we ever gotten in my opinion. It's also one of the most drastic, and finally the guys at Konami who are responsible for the banlist had some balls. They decided to bring some awesome cards back. The banlist is so completely different, or the last banlists are so much better. I get the feeling that there are completely different people responsible for the newer banlist, especially this one. On this banlist, the changes are so drastic and so incredible that I honestly think there are completely different people responsible for the banlist. So let's go to the list and I give you my opinion on the cards. So let's start with Gofu, the Vague Shadow. This card is clearly too strong. It was one of the most obvious hits for this ban, is one of the most obvious cards to ban. Gofu is basically a +2, it generates way too many tokens without even wasting your normal summon. You can even tribute him, you can destroy the tokens in, for example, Metal Force to get additional advantage. There's way too much stuff you can do with him, again, without wasting your normal summon, and this card obviously had to go. And then we have Dandelion. He generates tokens, he's also part of the plant FTK. I was a little bit surprised to see him on the list, but in retrospect it kind of makes sense that he's gotten this hit. He is like Gofu, very abusable, too generic, generates too much advantage, there's way too many ways to abuse this card, so I take it. I'm glad that this card is gone as well. And now we come to a little bit of a surprise to me, Double Eyes Magician. Like, who could predict that card? Like, I didn't see this one coming. I know they had to do something against Pendulum Magicians, now with Electromite being out, but to ban this card, I'm not complaining, I'm just a little bit surprised, but I guess it's for the better. Next we have the most obvious hit on the entire list, which is Level Eater. It's kind of funny, I was playtesting Mech Knights the other day, and at some point I thought, what about playing Level Eater and then first turn going into a Linkuriboh? And there are so many plays I had where my opponent just said Level Eater needed to get banned. You can go into Level Eater, Proxy Dragon, Decor Talker, and then link up again and again and do it again. As long as you have like 2 or 3 Mech Knights on the field, you can make completely over the top crazy boards that are not fair and shouldn't be made. And Mech Knights are not the only deck that can abuse Level Eater that way. Especially with Linkuriboh being out, I think that Linkuriboh is the main reason why Level Eater got banned in the TCG right now, because that card completely breaks Level Eater on a completely different scale. Like, those cards cannot be legal at the same time. Level Eater was already broke before, but at Linkuriboh, this is completely next level. And the next ban card is Maxi. This is probably one of the biggest hits on this ban list. The OCG has Maxi currently at 3, and we all as a community agreed Maxi either has to be at 0 or at 3. At 1 it's just too sacky, it's too luck based, and I guess Konami finally listened to us and did what we wanted and banned it. And I'm completely for this. I've seen a lot of people complain that they now have no counterplay to their opponents, but I think there are too many hand traps in the game that you can use instead of Maxi, like Gamma. It's getting a reprint anyway, you can use Ash. One of the biggest problems with Maxi is that all the new decks need to special summon a lot. And with Maxi being around, those decks cannot stand a chance in the metagame. Like for example World Chalice. World Chalice could be a good deck, but as soon as you open Maxi against that deck cannot do anything. It basically loses, it's gonna get OTK'd in the next turn. It's simply gonna lose. It just cannot compete against anybody who has Maxi in the starting hand, because it needs to special summon like 12 times or even more during a turn to make a play. It's not even that overpowered, it just needs those special summons. And I completely understand why Maxi needed to go to give those decks a chance at least to compete, because otherwise they couldn't make a single play without getting interrupted and then OTK'd next turn. And then we come to the last banned monster, which is Performable Skullcupid Joker. So they put Joker from 1 back to 3 and then they banned him again. It's kind of surprisingly to me, because old Konami would never ever unlimited Joker in the first place. But it makes sense for the period of time where Joker was kind of good and playable and wasn't broken. But now with Electromite being out and Pendulum Magicians clearly would be a tier 0 deck, it's very good that Joker is completely banned. He is just the best normal summon that Pendulum Magicians have. Yeah, this is not a great ban. Double Iris Magician is kind of debatable, but the rest makes a lot of sense, and they hit basically all the cards that they needed to do, so I'm really happy with the cards that they banned. So let's move on to the limited section. Now, the first limited card is one that a lot of people are afraid of, which is Clifford Towers. We still refer to an insanely powerful monster like Masterpiece to Towers, because Towers was the real first insanely broken boss monster. But nowadays, it's not that broken anymore. We have Utopia the Lightning. This card is not unaffected by Link Monster effects because they don't have a level or a rank. So there's a lot of counters nowadays, and I don't feel that Towers is really that broken anymore. Next up, we have a card that's very glad that's finally at 1, which is Grinder Golem. In my opinion, you also should have simply banned this card, but I take what I can get, and Grinder Golem at 1 is at least something. There are way too many ways to abuse this, but again, at least they have this card on their radar, and at least they show us that they say, okay, we're gonna test this out at 1. If that's still too strong, we're gonna ban it. And I'm okay with it. Again, I'm gonna take what I can get. At least they listened. And next we have Panther Mage Damage Juggler. Now you might think, because my channel mascot is Flame Eater, that I'm the biggest fan of Panther Mages, but that's actually not the case. I just like how goofy Flame Eater looks, that's all. But nonetheless, I'm kinda happy to see Damage Juggler back. So you can send this card to the graveyard with Brilliant Fusion. It's also really strong in Lightsworn. It's kinda like a defensive card, a good hand trap. It's a very strong card. And now with Joker being banned, it's completely fine that this card is at 1. So let's see how it plays out. Maybe it's still too strong, maybe not. So next we need to talk about one of the most obvious limitations on this list, which is Firewall Dragon. The OCG already decided to limit this card. Now it's finally time in the TCG. I don't need to talk a lot about Firewall Dragon. We all know what it can do, and that the special summon from the hand effect is not once per turn, it's just a little bit too strong and breaks a lot of stuff and can be abused in a lot of FTKs and OTKs. I'm all for this, so glad that I did it. And next we have to talk about one of the biggest limitations on this entire list, which is Monster Reborn. A lot of people surprisingly think that Monster Reborn isn't that strong anymore, and I'm not with them. This card is insanely strong. You can special summon from either player's graveyard, you can steal their Link monsters and go for your own extra deck monster zones, you can use their Link monsters to go into even stronger Link monsters. There's so much stuff you can do with this card that I think that at least in side decks you will see Monster Reborn for a very long time. This is a card that I wouldn't underestimate and that I would definitely try out if I were you. And then we have another really obvious pick, which is Spiral Resort. I don't need to talk a lot about this. Spirals and Pendulum Magicians were the best decks. Both needed a hit, and Pendulum Magicians got completely wrecked. But Spirals got the best card they have left, limited. And Spiral Resort is such a big limitation. Sure, you can still play Spirals, but this is by far the best and most efficient hit that Konami could make, and this again speaks for the quality of this ban list. Very good hit. So next we have to talk about Solemn Judgment. This is a card that they finally brought back after a very long time, kind of like Monster Reborn, and it kind of splits the community in half. A lot of people think that this card is clearly too strong. Other group of Yu-Gi-Oh players think that this card is too slow. I think this card will see play, but I don't think it is as broken as a lot of people think it is. This card was mainly brought back for 2 reasons. First of all, to promote the Fairy Structure deck, because that deck is clearly not strong enough. And second of all, even if it's too strong, in the next set we get Red Reboot, and Red Reboot is a hard counter against this card. I think this is a very good pick, and I'm really excited to playtest this card. So now that we talked about all the banned and limited cards. Let's talk about the unlimited cards because there are no semi-limited cards on this list. First of all, Artifact Moraltag. This is really nice that we finally got this card back. It was really time, and this card was at 1 for way too long. But I don't think right now it's gonna make an impact, kind of like the next card. It's kind of shocking that Blackluster Soldier is actually at 3, but again, I don't think this card is gonna have a huge impact. Maybe in some Lightsworn variants, but yeah, that's kind of it. Then we have Card Trooper. This card was feared back in the day together with Machine Duplication because you could send a ton of cards to the graveyard, and if it's destroyed by battle, you could also draw a card. But nowadays, this is not enough. Maybe Despots can use this card to its full potential, but that's kind of the only deck that I could think of that could really use this card. Then we have Thunder King Ryo, a nice addition for every stun-based deck, definitely. Maybe with Inspect Border for Extreme Force, we're gonna see some anti-meta decks finally popping up in the meta game. Who knows? Then we have Bryonek. Okay, Bryonek at 1 didn't do anything, so again, this is a very obvious unlimitation. Brain Control, another card like Bryonek, it didn't do anything at 1. After its errata, it's fairly weak and definitely can be unlimited. And next up we have El Shaddoll Fusion. This card comes back to the ban list way too late. Even if we had Shaddoll Construct, I don't think that Shaddolls would do anything in the meta game. Maybe you would see some variants, but that's all. And then we have Future Fusion. This is one of the few cards that is back at unlimited status that I'm not completely sure about. A lot of people think that it's a completely garbage card after the errata. I tend to differ right here because if this card survives the turn in Infernoids, it's fairly strong. Summoning Terra with all the materials is not a joke. So let's see if Infernoids could make the top card at the next YCS. I wouldn't be completely surprised. I'm not gonna say that Infernoids is like the best deck right now. I'm not gonna try to hype this up, but I'm just gonna say you shouldn't underestimate Infernoids at all, because again, if this card survives the turn, they could become very dangerous. And then we have a card that I'm not so sure about if this should be unlimited, which is Mind Control. Mind Control is a crazy card, especially for any side deck. In the mirror match, you can steal your opponent's monster, you can use them for XYZ summons, you can use them for link summons, you can use them for synchro summons, you can do so much with this one card, it's very flexible. So I wouldn't be surprised if this card would go back to semi-limited or even limited status on the next ban list. This card is ridiculously strong. Next we have Free Preparations of Rites, which is surprisingly weak because it needs so much setup. I tried this card in Ventred, for example. Necros obviously can use this card to their full potential because it can simply first turn discard a card and then use this card to recycle their resources, but even then, I don't think we're gonna see a lot of play of this card in the metagame anytime soon. Next card on the list is Sacrifice, nice addition for the Klee archetype, in my opinion one of the best equip spell cards ever made, but I don't think with Kleefort Scout being at 1 that Klees will do anything, but let's wait and see. Next we have Ceasefire. This is a nice addition for any burn deck, as well as the next card, Ojama Trio. And the last two cards are also pretty interesting. Bottomless Trap Hole is side deck worthy, in my opinion. And then obviously also the last card, Torrential Tribute. Torrential Tribute could be really interesting. This is a very powerful card. It's kind of surprising that we have Torrential now at 3 and Dark Hole only at 1. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a deck in the metagame with 3 Torrential Tribute. So that's it for all the cards on the new ban list. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. In my opinion, Trickster, variants, ABC, also Pendulum Magician and a little bit Spiral are gonna be the next meta. Also Zephyr is gonna be a really strong deck, and maybe Infernoids. But again, let me know what you think about the ban list, what you think is now meta, if you like the ban list, if there's something on the ban list that should have come back, if they didn't hit a certain card that needs to get limited or maybe even banned. In my opinion, Trickster Reincarnation or Trickster Candina is one of these cards, or maybe at least Trickster Light Stage. Again, let me know your thoughts about the ban list in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like. To support this channel, support small channels in general. And the next video is gonna be on Ventred. Till next time, bye.